Hey guys, Infidel 1258 here. The game's down for maintenance. I'm trying to push for champion, but because it's down for maintenance, like in the old school days, we used to use this as a thumbnail for our frequently asked questions videos. So let's do that now. When we couldn't play the game, we would go and we'd talk about the game and create content in that way. And we're going to do that right now. If you're new to the channel, my name is Dwayne Cunningham. I go by Infidel 1258. If you guys don't know, I cover Splinterlands all day, every day, because it's changed my life. And some of you might not have seen, some of you know, I've created a store now. There's merch. You can support me by buying some cool merch with the Time and Attention logo on it. Check it out in the YouTube store. Now, there's one question in here that I specifically want to focus on. And I think that might even, I might isolate that issue and make that the sole video. That content is around the issue of the Rift Watchers voucher pre-sale problem, where people who bought Rift Watcher packs and didn't use vouchers could retroactively submit those vouchers to claim those free packs. And there's a ton of dissenting opinion on both sides here about this was a terrible idea or this was necessary. And there's two comments I want to read, and I want to just, I guess, comment into that conversation, because I think this is something we all still consider and are concerned about, both for future, you know, what this would mean for Splinterlands, but also, I think it's just, there's two sides of the coin and what this would mean for the future of Splinterlands. So let's unpack it a bit. So there's a comment from Eric M. So first of all, 30-second summary of what the situation was. When Rift Watchers went on sale the other day, you could buy Rift Watcher packs, and what happened was there was a window where you could press tell them how many packs you wanted to buy. And the system was supposed to say, okay, you bought 200 packs, you're eligible for 20 free packs. Do you want to submit those vouchers? The system should have done that. It didn't do that. As a result, lots of people, in their rush to process their orders due to the time sensitivity of it, didn't claim those free packs. And that was a problem. That was a problem from the website's perspective, but also a problem from the individual user perspective. And I admit that, and I've said that it's, you know, I made that mistake, and I've said publicly, and I stand by it, that was on me. I made that mistake. And generally speaking, in blockchain, you make a mistake, you're hooped. There's no reset button. There's no load fresh, you know, from your load save state in cryptocurrency. But here's the thing. Splinterlands isn't just a blockchain. It's not just a decentralized blockchain. It's actually, there's a degree of governance here. And that has allowed us to retroactively say, okay, for those, let's vote on it. And the community voted, and they decided those of us who wanted who made that error can go ahead and recoup that loss by submitting vouchers retroactively. I did a video talking about that, about how that happened, and about how it happened to me, and about how I then claimed those those packs retroactively. And the comment comes in from Eric, and he goes, I'm pretty salty about this topic, to be honest. I know you made an entire video in the past, Dwayne, about paying attention to your crypto transactions because you have misplaced decimal points and made typos, and I 100% agree. It was a UI issue, and it needed to be fixed. He's talking about the Rift Watcher, not the voucher screen not popping up. That was a UI issue, and that was an error on Splinterland's behalf. But then he goes on to say, rightly, however, if you or anyone else were paying attention, you wouldn't have this problem. In my opinion, this goes totally against blockchain technology. And you mean to tell me that if I accidentally sent someone 1.1 BTC, and I was supposed to send them 0.1 BTC and I sent them 1, that I get an option to fix that? No, it's done. Gone. Poof. And to be completely honest, it would stand to make a huge point to the community that someone as big as you in the game, who has been here as long, can still make mistakes. This should have been a learning experience for people who made a mistake, and not an opportunity for whales who didn't pay attention to flex their SPS stakes and overrule everyone else when they are the ones who screwed up. I don't think this passing was right at all. Okay, so lots of things there. And I need to be kind of quick. I got about 10 minutes to talk about this because I got to go to work, my real life work. So first of all, Eric, thanks for the comment. I will send a little thank you after I'm done here. But I also want to read, Walter's got a counterpoint. He goes, Walter Polili. Says not a whale, not affected by the Riftwatcher issue, and still very disagree with your point. If you want Splinterlands to go mass adoption, you need it to be user-friendly, idiot-proof, and accountable for every little stupid thing. Not meaning that the ones did make mistakes are idiots, meaning that even more stupid mistakes can be made by humans. Of course, we could keep Splinterlands extremely strict to the rules, but at the cost of never going to an average Joe. Moreover, here we had proof that the whales are not a united entity who aim to steal assets and governance from us. Prop 4 didn't pass, even though it was very supported by the devs. This is a strong point too. They both make strong points, and this is a contentious issue, and I get it. And I said in a video with me being interviewed by Gank and Walking Keys, look guys, I made this mistake. I know I made a mistake. I want people to respect the fact that this was a personal, like, I made a mistake. So it was in some sense the devs and the UI, and that should have been different. But I pressed buy, not them. But here's the comp. It is, you got to admit, it's not black and white, because even though I pressed buy, you have to admit the UI wasn't there. And you have to also admit, if I wanted to be in that pre-sale window, I didn't have time to stop and think and wait. I barely made it. And all I did was refresh and press buy. Like, all I did, like, watch that video. It's online. It's at one of my live events. I think it was a heavily shared moment, really, because a lot of you guys experienced that. And you can see that it didn't have a window for how many vouchers. It should have automatically populated, or it should say, vouchers or something. And okay, at the end of the day, it does land on me. It's my shoulders. I made that decision. I made the buy, and that's all fair. But there's something here. There's a middle ground here to the development, and the UI wasn't correct or wasn't appropriate or wasn't clear. And then yes, the user moved too quickly. And in some sense, you might say I moved too quickly, and I think I necessarily did so because I wanted to be in the pre-sale. So I qualified for that promo card, which is amazing, that Dragon promo card that they're going to give away for people who bought packs during the pre-sale. So that time sensitivity was urgent, right? I had to move. I couldn't wait. I couldn't delay. And you well know that it was like 90 seconds before they sold out. Like that window was like that for 500,000 packs, and that qualifying for that pre-sale. And therefore there was no time to kind of mince about or even refresh again. What if it didn't work? I did what I felt was I needed to do, and I didn't recognize that missing prompt. So I admit there was a component of me not seeing certain things. I also agree that the system wasn't the way it ought to have been, and combine it together with the urgency imposed by the small pre-sale window, I think it's very justifiable. And then I think the bigger issue is, I think we all agree, all three of us agree, and probably you agree, there's gray area here. What was it easy and obvious to see? I think we have to admit it wasn't. Should I have been more kind of discerning? Yeah, I think we should all agree that I could have been more discerning. But the real, I think the nook or the crux of the argument, and maybe the the point that they both raised too, which is interesting, is that should Splinterlands be 100% hard and fast, black and white, zeros and ones about what's right and what's wrong? Like, transactions go and they're done. Like in the example of you send 0.1 BTC, or you owe 0.1 BTC, but you send one full Bitcoin. You're not getting that back. He's right, but that's a different thing altogether. That's a blockchain that isn't, with no governance over it, and there's no delegated proof of stake within it. There's literally miners that just process the math, and that math commits the blocks. That's just a different entity altogether. And in some sense, that's why you want Bitcoin for like the money play, for the almost the hard money, like the anti-inflation play, I would argue. And Splinterlands is a totally different thing. It's a video game that we mean to appeal to a wide range of people, as Walter pointed out. And so you have to have the conversation not just about whether it was obvious, not just about whether the Splinterlands team could have changed the UI. You have to get to the core of what are we aiming at here. And I think Eric and Walter and I disagree. Eric and Walter disagree. as to what the aim of this game should be. Are we trying to make it black and white, 0 and 1? You sent it or you didn't. The window was X and that's that. Or are we trying to be more idiot-proof, more making space for average users to step in? I think we better focus on what Walter's asking us to focus on. If we don't, we are going to be a niche game that accesses 10 or 20 or 50 or 100,000 players, never millions, something like a Hearthstone. We want to grow our game. We want more people to be enjoying it. If wallets are too tricky, or if transactions are too onerous, if the process is too frustrating and nuanced and confusing, we will never attract the masses. And we should want that. So the balance is, we have to bring those two together, because at the same time, Eric is right too. You want to know to the best of our ability the lines of where does the line drawn? Where are the edges of the box? Where you want to be able to understand the fullness of that flexibility. If there is any flexibility, we want to understand in advance that flexibility. And Eric suggests this should have been a learning experience. He says that it shouldn't be a situation, an opportunity for whales who didn't pay attention to flex their SPS stakes and overrule everyone else when they screwed up, end quote. So that is the core, I think, thesis on one side, where it's like the idea that SPS stakeholders, quote unquote whales, can just overrule whatever they don't like. And in some sense, that's a fair point too. Here's the crazy thing. We have two totally opposite opinions, and there's a nuance between them that's worth navigating through, because he's right. We don't want a game where a few sort of centralized authorities are just pushing through their own benefits and to everybody else's detriment. That's true. I don't think that's what happened here. I think this was put towards a community of people who voted, and like Walter pointed out, one of the propositions which was supported by the devs didn't pass. And so when you want to talk about the whales pushed this through or didn't push that through, that argument falls apart when one of the four proposals that they put forward just gets kiboshed. Like, something about that argument doesn't hold water when we have one example out of four that was supported by those quote unquote whales, literally some of the biggest whales, and yet falls apart. And so I think it's, and at the end of the day, even if whales are pushing forward and like supporting certain initiatives that you disagree with, this has to be true. If we're going to do decentralized governance, it has to be true that even the biggest voices are allowed to apply the full weight of their voice. You can't say to them, "You're too big of a whale, therefore you get no vote." That's been a tone I've heard. That's been an idea I've heard shared in the community. In fact, Agro spoke to, should I even be voting on these things in the last town hall? Of course he should. Every SPS stakeholder has a voice. Everyone who has one SPS or 1 million or 10 million has a voice and a right, and actually a responsibility to speak into these issues. And somebody with less stake who wants to say, well, it's unfair that you whales get to sway the vote. Guys, open your wallets and get more SPS, become a whale and control, quote unquote, how'd you phrase it? Overrule everyone. Like, I don't believe that's actually what happens, but that's what you say happens. These SPS stakeholders, these whales of SPS, are going to quote unquote overrule everyone. I disagree, but if that's your thesis, get involved, acquire SPS, and become the whale so you can have your voice heard. That's not what happens. We saw that's not what happens. 1 out of 4 of those failed, despite whales' support. And so this is a community of governance, and that's actually a beautiful thing, a powerful thing, a thing we should honor and be excited about. It's going to lead to our game being safe from federal and governmental regulation, because we are going to be operated through nodes that are decentralized and not centrally easily shut down. That's going to lead to resiliency within this game and longevity for our assets and the sort of the financial opportunity that is Splinterlands. This is a beautiful thing, not a problem. And in this one situation, it went a way you disagree with, Eric, but absolutely this was what the community wanted, not what quote unquote the whales wanted. This is what the community wanted. And more than that, you have to admit that this in particular was a very gray area. And when you talk about wanting a black and white answer, life isn't always like that. And when you have a governance system, the benefit is you can navigate those gray areas with more clarity, appeasing more people, not necessarily everyone, but more. And that's a greater degree of benefit than is possible in some situations where you just say it's yes or no, it's black or white. Because you in these key moments where we can't get a yes or a no, we can get 70-80% of people saying yes, and we're not going to appease everybody, but 8 out of 10 is better than yes or a no is going to do make 30% of people mad no matter what. And so I don't know. This is the game we're dealing with. And I guess at the end of the day, either you enjoy Splinterlands and its view and aim at decentralized governance, or you don't. And but that's what we've got, and that's what we're aiming at, and that's what we've always been aiming at. So one last point. I really hope this isn't a surprise to you guys. Like, wow, this is going wrong, because this is always being the aim. They've been talking for literally months. In fact, years they've talked about how this was the ultimate aim, but more recently this has become increasingly a conversation. Decentralization, validator nodes, SPS governance has been on constant communication from the dev team. So this has been the target, this has been the aim, and now it's happening. And I see a lot of people share Eric's opinion about, man, I hate that this is happening, or man, I hate that other people get so much significant votes. Meanwhile, tons of you guys sold every single SPS you got for the airdrop. You got paid every day for free for a year for holding assets in this game, and you sold every one of them, didn't you? And now that SPS actually matters and votes are being tallied to change the direction of the game, there's frustration, there's disappointment, there's annoyance that you can't be on the inside of that conversation. You can. You just made certain choices, and now even today you're making new choices that are either going to put you inside the future of that conversation, giving you stake and weight and power and authority within the yes or the no vote power, or you're making a choice to not walk in that authority and that opportunity by saying, nah, I'm going to pass on SPS. It's totally your choice. But this is the game you're in. And if Splinterlands, if you don't like that it has that component, I mean, it's not a bug, guys. This is not a bug. This is a feature. Governance is here to stay. In fact, it's going to become more of a thing, not less. If you think this issue is huge, wait till there's big ones like here's $100 million in SPS in the DAO. Are we going to burn it? Are we going to give it away to stakeholders? Are we going to use it to buy affiliates with like major brands? There's huge decisions, life-changing financial decisions coming to us in the form of SPS governance. And the question is, do you want to be in that conversation, or do you want to be on the outsides complaining about what the quote-unquote whales decided? I'm going to leave it to you. I'm really anxious and eager to see what the comments in this one are. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Like I said in the initial comments, check out the merch if you're interested in supporting the channel. It's one way you can do so and get something physical out of the issue. Out of the contribution, and I think some of it's pretty sweet. So check it out. Have an amazing day. God bless.